lifting some of those restrictions and allowing us to see our friends and family would actually really help.
27 questions,
27 weeks.
27 suggestions.
Do I think the lockdown in Melbourne has been too strict? You got to ask yourself the question, is it worth sacrificing millions of people's mental health for this extra precaution in regards to physical health? I think there's been a bit of a disregard for people's mental health, and I've spoken to a few people I know in Melbourne. They're saying the rate of depression, the rate of domestic violence has gone up. So I think now it's a little strict, and now it's time to alleviate that a little bit.
I would much rather be in lockdown for another 3-4 weeks than have a third wave. I think out of the two, it's 2-3 weeks, third wave. It's a no-brainer, but also I think we can see it's working. We went from 700 cases to 2 today in the space of 2 months. So it's not fun, but I don't think they're too strict. I think they're working.
I think lockdowns, yes, they were the correct measure to be taken at the time. I think on the other hand, as the case numbers have started to dwindle, and I think cases was literally 1 today when I checked the news.
This might be not the question, but what I didn't agree with was it was out of line from ScoMo to be having shots at Dan Andrews for doing what he had to do, I think.
I don't know, I'm going to throw that to people who live in Victoria, because even though we all had a lockdown at the beginning, at the end of the day, I think, Dan Andrews is doing what he needs to do to get the situation under control.
I mean, it's not meant to be everyone's on a holiday, stay at home. No, it's in place for a reason, because shit's going down and people are dying. So, no, I don't think it is.
The entire Melbourne community should honestly, get free Uber Eats and Visa gift vouchers for the rest of their lives.
I don't think they're too strict. I completely understand why it's really, really hard for everyone in Melbourne right now. Everyone's mental health's at an all-time low. I completely empathize, but I think that's coronavirus's fault, and the lockdown, as shitty as it is doing everything it can to protect people. It's both at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
No, I think they've been good. I mean, we kind of went through the same thing, I guess, but it was just shorter lived. And there are measures in Europe, I think, in Germany and Amsterdam, that have been more hectic than Melbourne. So yeah, I don't think in the scheme of things they've been super hectic.
Talking to my friends who live there and were experiencing it, I could hear the toll it was having on their own mental health, the personal relationships, what happened when the job losses happened. So I might have a different tune if I was actually in their position. I couldn't tell you if I thought they were too harsh. I thought they were needed.
To be honest, I kind of feel like the facts and figures speak for themselves. If you sort of look where we are compared to where we were a few months ago and where other places were a few months ago, and you sort of see the trajectory, I think the numbers speak for themselves.
From the outside looking in, it would appear that there's potentially scope to give people a bit more freedom, but like I said, I'm not in the center of it, so it's hard for me to have a opinion.
When you look objectively, it seems like it was okay, but then when you actually consider the details and the mental health impacts on so many people, then it becomes really a grey area. So I have no good answer to this, except that I'm happy that people's lives are now okay, but I just hope that in future we can keep protecting people and making sure that everyone's lives will continue to be okay.
I mean, I don't think so. It's very clearly worked. The number of cases are dropping, considering what it was. And you look at somewhere like the States compared to us, and we're doing pretty well.
The answer to this question is in the data. If you look at the statistics from other countries who haven't had the measures that we've taken to us, the position that we are in the COVID situation is obviously so much better. New Zealand was very condemned, I feel personally, by the public, or at least my peers, when stage 4 first happened back in March. And look at them now. They've had 1 or 2 COVID cases for months. Melbourne's measures were not too strict.
I guess if you don't believe in the harmful effects of coronavirus, then you would be more inclined to think that it's strict. Whereas, if you're looking at the global picture and, how harmful this virus is, I would look at it and I would argue that it hasn't been too strict, and Clearly, the government cares about its citizens compared to other countries in the world where they're just like, look, herd immunity. That to me shows that the elected leaders don't care about the well-being of their citizens. So if Melbourne is coming across as too strict, at least they care about everyone's health, everyone's safety. At least they care about their citizens. Period.
No, I do not think that Melbourne's lockdown measures are too strict. I understand it's really hard and difficult and lonely and isolating, but it's working. Their cases are clearing up, and I do not think that it's too strict. I think it's definitely worth it.
I just wish that the government had chosen a different way to go around with it, because now I feel like Melbourne's turned into like the martyr city. Victoria's the martyr state, because we're all looking at them going, oh, well, like at least we aren't as bad as Melbourne. And we should be trying really hard not to reach the point that Melbourne has gotten to. We shouldn't set that as our bar and then imagine that we're never going to top it, because everybody in Melbourne's going through something really difficult right now that they are doing their best to actively improve, and we don't want to get to that point. So we should be able to lend our support to Melbourne while also doing our best, that they don't have to watch us do the same thing, or that if we let down our guard, it further harms them.
I live in Perth, Western Australia, and Western Australia's borders are still closed despite a lot of, I guess, combat from other state leaders, and we are doing really well in terms of COVID cases. I think that unfortunately each time Melbourne decided that they were going to reassess the measures, there was an outbreak again. And unfortunately, there needs to be no community transmissions in order for restrictions to ease, because this is the kind of thing that can spread so quickly, so fast. Like, we have to take this seriously.
What I'm most concerned about now is the mental health of myself and my friends and my community, because I know we're all struggling a lot. Lifting some of those restrictions and allowing us to see our friends and family would actually really help.
I'm not too sure what the measures for the lockdown is in Melbourne. I don't really follow it. But beforehand, like when I did know a bit about it, the cases down there seem pretty bad. So, I mean, I guess not. They're just doing what they have to try and minimalise and, get on top of the situation.
So I truly think as long as we're listening to scientists and people who have a background in this area, doing something is better than doing nothing at all.
That it's a comfortable situation for everyone to be in, but I think it's necessary for the health of everyone. And if we had to do that here in New South Wales, I would also be following the rules and doing that so that I could help everyone else who's sick.
Looking at the statistics, for example, like of the cases in Melbourne, and I think it was France on the same day, they had the same number of cases, I think maybe in September, and then a month later, Melbourne has one case and France has like 15,000. So I think, it has worked. It's been pretty shit for everyone, obviously, but the other side of that could have been a lot more deaths and then like a whole other outbreak that would become uncontrollable. So I think they've been doing the best that they can.
I think that the lockdown measures have been adequate, and I think they have been probably necessary for what is needed. As I said, they've taken one for the country, and had they not have done that, who knows, if the entire country could have potentially been in the exact same position had they not locked down and tried to keep it contained.
I think as soon as the cases started to go down, they should have been given the opportunity to actually start going out and doing things and seeing what happens. I think they've been held in lockdown for way too long, especially considering the rest of the country is able to open up and keep on going along with their lives. I definitely think it's unfair of them to have to stay in lockdown for this long.
I think that it's probably going to have really severe consequences for the economy in Victoria and just the culture in general. And I really hope they ease soon.